Hey guys, let us start with the fixed income part for level 3. I'm going to cover some important topics. It's going to be helpful for me and it's going to be helpful for a lot of people who want to learn about the fixed income and what the CFA is going to teach in the fixed income portfolio management. So the first three topics that I'm going to cover is basically what is the role of fixed income, the modeling return, leverage and tax, and how these matter in terms of fixed income portfolio management and what are the things that the portfolio manager needs to consider. In our book, Schwezer, it is reading 18 of the study session 7. So, what are the role of fixed income? So, very obvious roles is a diversification because it has a low correlation with risky assets such as equity. So, having a fixed income portfolio will reduce the portfolio risk, and it will also give you the diversification benefit because if the equity asset class is in stress, the money moves from equity to fixed income. And obviously there are some cases, and particularly in the crisis situation where both of them give negative returns, like it's happening right now also in COVID-19 scenario. So but that's a very rare scenario. Otherwise fixed income will always give you a diversification benefit. It is a medium to earn regular cash flow. So no, not all portfolios need to be a capital gain kind of a portfolio. When you invest in equity, you invest either for dividend income or you invest for capital gains. Similarly, when you have a need for regular cash flow, you can have a fixed income portfolio, which will provide you with regular cash flows in terms of coupons or maturing securities and so on and so forth. And fixed income is a natural hedge to the inflation. When I say natural hedge, is only limited to the securities which give the inflation protection, like floating rate securities which are linked to LIBOR, because that's again a market-driven rate, and the Treasury inflation protected securities, which protects your principal and coupon with the increase in the inflation. And so these securities will provide you with the inflation hedge and will save your investment value. Basic, very basic from L1 and L2. Okay, so whenever a fixed income portfolio manager is going to manage the entire portfolio, there are two types of mandates. The first one is the liability approach. So you might hire a fixed income fund manager to match your or manage your funds or your entity's liability, right? Because since the liabilities are they will come due in future, you need to have an asset in place so that your liabilities are funded. So there are four methods by which you can do the liability based planning. It's also known as the conservative approach. The first one is the cash flow matching. It's very simple. All your liabilities will fall in some or the other bucket in your ALM sheet or in your cash flow buckets. What you have to do is basically match an asset for each cash flow so that there is less cash flow gap and manageable cash flow gap, which you can plan at the end of the bucket also if there is a small gap. And that's how it's the simplest and the most easiest method to do that. The second one is basically duration matching. So what can happen is, even if you match your cash flows, even if you plan your cash flows from today till the upcoming buckets in futures, your portfolio, your fixed income portfolio, both on the asset and the liability side, is open to the interest rate risk, otherwise also known as the duration risk, right? Because what you can have as a scenario is basically the interest rate could move adversely for your assets and liabilities, and since you are exposed to the interest rate risk, might as well match both the assets and liabilities duration, so that in the event of any interest rate movement, both of your assets and liabilities will counter each other, and you will be left with a very less duration gap. A very basic technique of ALM management. The third is contingent immunization. So the word contingent means, first, satisfy the condition of funding your liabilities with your assets. If there is anything surplus, you can invest in risky securities, you can invest in structured products and anything else which is much more riskier, and try to earn an extra income from the market. As long as your assets are greater than liability, you can do uh, active management. Now the word immunization has come over here. So this is the problem with a lot of text. They first give the text and then they introduce the words. So immunization is what? When we say immunization, it's like taking your vaccines and everything. It's basically to protect you, right? When we say immunization in medical terms, it's basically to protect you. Over here, the fixed income mandate is first to protect your liabilities, and you have to protect your cash flows. You have to protect your outflows. When we say protect in layman terms, it actually means that you have to provide for assets so that your liabilities are paid off and the risk of default is less. And ever since 2008, the capital requirements are such that it becomes very difficult for the treasury or the ALM or the fund manager to match the cash flows to fund their liabilities, and they have to use optimized methods to match the cash flows and everything. So we'll see that in later stages, but the word immunization is basically simply to provide for your liabilities. The assets should be available so that your liabilities are funded. Horizon matching is basically a hybrid approach wherein the short term cash flows are cash flow matched and the long term are duration matched. Very simple. Short term, in shorter term, the duration risk is very low because the interest rate movements are unlikely. In the long term, you don't want to tie up your cash flows right now and plan for such a long term. You might as well match the duration so that the interest rate movement is at least captured, and whenever that maturity becomes short term, you can again go back to your cash flow match method. So this is the hybrid approach. So what are we discussing over here? Again, I'll come back to the concept is basically whenever a fund or entity wants to manage their liability, manage their fixed income, there could be because of two reasons. First is to manage the liabilities which are due. The second is basically to earn the alpha from the market, and alpha is basically the return over the risk-free rate, right? Otherwise, any manager can invest in the risk-free rate. So alpha is basically any return which is above the risk-free rate. So the conservative approach is to match the liabilities and then invest any surplus. The aggressive approach is basically it focuses on the return, right? As the name suggests, total return mandates. It focuses on the return. There are three ways to do the aggressive approach or the total return mandates. The pure indexing, which is you just copy the index as it is, with very less deviation, and you try to mimic the index so that the returns are same. Enhanced indexing is basically the manager will get some leeway in terms of the portfolio weight or the sectoral weight or the type of bonds that they can have in their portfolio. Active management is wherein the portfolio manager will be given a very large leeway. He may be given a 40% or a 50% deviation limit from the index, and he can actually do pure active management of the portfolio, and he will try to generate the maximum alpha from the portfolio. So these are the two types of fixed income mandates as a CFA portfolio manager that you will be mostly coming across. There are many others. It's all part of these two approaches in broad sense. We'll come to it in the later stage. Okay, now we have done equity attribution in level 2. We know the returns are because of the allocation effect, the selection effect, the sector rotation, the timing of the manager, the independent bets, and so on and so forth. And similarly, for the fixed income, we need to know what are my sources of return so that I come to know how the portfolio is performing. Now, there are five attributes that you can drill down to see what are the sources of your return. The first one is income yield, which is synonym to the dividend yield, which is income upon the price. Income in this case is coupon. So the first one is coupon upon price. Second one is the roll down return. Roll down return, as the name is quite complex, it's basically simply the holding period return between two periods in the yield curve, assuming that the yield curve remains constant. Price change is basically the impact of duration and convexity on the price. Now we know that the formula for change in price is basically modified duration into change in YTM, right? But when we talk in terms of convexity, the formula expands and it becomes duration into YTM, change in YTM, plus half of convexity into square of change in YTM, right? We'll see this formula later. So this is basically the price change, the expected price change, given that the yield curve remains constant. That is assumption. Credit loss is basically if the bond that you have invested has lost its credit rating or is subject to some changes in the spread because of its credit worthiness. There could be a credit loss that happens, and This is very similar to the CVA that we had done in level 2, wherein the credit risk of the bond was factored in the price. And the last one is quite obvious. It is the currency gain loss. So if you are holding a foreign currency bond, and if it is performing well, the returns could be because of the currency gain and not actually because of the underlying outperformance of the bond. So these are broadly the five areas wherein the returns can be attributed. What we have done over here is covered it very briefly. The reason is in exam we don't expect, even I don't expect that a lot of calculation will be asked because these calculations are very cumbersome. What they will ask is basically to map the data points and come out with the attribution or the come out with the reason as to what is the most effective attribute and what is the least effective attribute, right? If that could be the possible question. Anyways, leverage and tax. Okay, so leverage and tax. A fixed income portfolio or any portfolio manager for that matter can invest in two ways. They can invest there with their own cash, or they can take a leverage and try to uh, outsmart the market by borrowing at a lower cost and investing at a higher cost. So your leverage will be beneficial only when your cost of borrowing is less than your return of investment. So over here, there are various ways to take leverage in a fixed income portfolio. The first one is very obvious, the repo, wherein you give your security as a collateral. You do a short-term borrowing. You park your money in any other security which is giving you greater return than the cost of borrowing, and that's how you earn the extra income. Second is futures. So we know that bond futures is a very it has a very large market depth in the advanced markets like US and UK. So bond futures is one of the way that you can introduce leverage. Since futures requires only margin requirement at the initial stage, it can be treated as a leverage instrument because you are paying only say what 20 or 21% of your entire contract amount. The rest is basically the leverage that you are taking. Third is swaps. Swaps is very simple. Consider an interest rate swap wherein you are paying a fixed rate and borrowing at and receiving the LIBOR. So when you're paying fixed rate, that means you have a fixed rate liability, and when you're receiving LIBOR, that means you have a fixed rate LIBOR rated asset. So your the borrowing leg over here becomes the leverage, right? Now what you're doing over here essentially is basically the view on the interest rate is opposite, and you believe that you are borrowing at a lower rate, and the asset return that you are exchanging in terms of your cash flows will outperform the borrowing cost of fund. The last option is structured finance, and structured finance is a subject in itself. For us, it is important to know that structured finance could be a combination of instruments, it could be combination of derivatives, and basically it could be anything that allows the dealers to quote a return in terms of how do I explain this? So structured finance is basically a dealer generated uh, market wherein the dealers will coordinate with the product manufacturers, and they will come up with such products where the return are greater than the conventional products. The tax management for portfolios. So you can have two types of portfolios. One is the taxable and the second one is tax exempt. This is quite self-explanatory, so I'm not really worrying about that, and I'm moving ahead. Uh, right now, I think so. I should cover the fixed income reading 19 in another video. Otherwise, this video will become too big. So if you have any questions, please post it. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.